We did quarterbacks yesterday. Today, we're talking wide receiver. Who are the top 5 wide receivers, according to me?
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be going over my quarterback. I did that yesterday. Wide receiver rankings. I'm going to talk about the top 5 wide receivers in this year's class. According to me, it's going to be a fun time. I'm very, very excited. If you guys want to know more about my positional rankings yesterday, like I said, we did the quarterbacks. Tomorrow are going to be running backs and fullbacks, tight ends the day after that, center the day after that, guard the day after that, offensive tackle the day after that, before we move on to defense. But let's not waste any time. Let's talk wide receivers, and let's start with the number 1 wide receiver on my board, and we head right to Ohio State to talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the number 1 player in my board and the only player in my top 5 that has a definitive first-round grade on him. I would not be surprised if by the end of day 1 he is the only wide receiver taken, because I don't have a first-round grade on any of the other wide receivers. I have some guys that might sneak in on the bottom, but that's it. JSN is the only guy who's a first-round pick, and even then, he's a mid-first-round pick in my book. And let's talk about why. I think, one, when you look at his ability and what he can do and translating that to the next level, you've probably heard this before, and I think this is true. He's probably going to be kind of pinned into being a slot wide receiver at the next level. Now, he was able to show us at the pro day that he has more than enough speed to play at the next level. I think a lot of people were really worried that he was going to run like a 4.6 or something like that. And going out there on his pro day and running a 4.5, I think is a very, very good thing for him. Now, the other thing that we really have to look at, like, with what he can do, is when you look, and this is one of the reasons why I have him with a first-round grade, when you look at JSN and what he's going to provide for a quarterback, specifically in the slot, is a second quarterback on the field. He knows how to dissect a defense. He understands where the gaps in coverages are going to be when players are put in motion, which is something that he's only going to see more of at the NFL, kind of telegraphing what the defense is kind of doing. He can see that, and in the middle of his runs and his breakouts and his routes, you can see that he knows where to find the space. And while he might not necessarily run the right route according to the play call, he's running the right route according to what the defense is giving him. He has this knack of finding the holes and the gaps in coverage. And for a quarterback, that is just an absolutely insane trait. And then when he catches the ball, yeah, he doesn't have this yards after the catch ability that we see from guys like Olave or Wilson, who came out of Ohio, that have this yard after the catch ability, not just like with them making people miss, but with just the sheer speed that these guys run at. He has the ability to create yards after catch by just being smarter than the defensive back. He has this innate ability of making the first guy miss and then carrying the second guy for an extra 2 or 3 yards. I love what he brings to the next level. I love his combination of size and speed. But again, when we're talking about some of his cons and why I wouldn't even consider him maybe like a top 15 pick in this draft, is he kind of needs to get his he doesn't have like game-breaking speed, so he's not going to be, in this day and age of the NFL where speed is king and speed rules, he doesn't bring that to his game. He did come off of an injury last year, but I think the biggest thing with him is that he's not really going to provide you anything like in man one-on-one. If there's a really sticky corner, if there's a corner that can stay with him, you know, he he doesn't really have the ability to go high point the ball or to do any of those things. So again, he's got a limited game, but when you look at what he's going to be able to do at the next level, specifically in the slot, the guy is going to dominate. I love this kid. Moving on to the next wide receiver, and again, that was the only first-round grade I had on all of the wide receivers, but we're talking about Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College. I love this guy a ton. I think he is arguably one of the best prospects in the wide receiver room this draft. If we're talking about 3 to 5 years from now, who might be the best wide receiver in this class, it might be Zay Flowers. He has all of the intangibles and all of the things that you can't teach that you want a guy. Now, he is a smaller prospect at 5'10", a $172. You know, there's that, but he absolutely can play out wide, something that I didn't think that JSN could do. Like, you could line up Zay Flowers, not full time, but outside, like as an X, as a Z, you know, not a Z because Z is in the slot, but like as an X, as a Y, and he can handle that kind of, you know, press man, and he has that escapability. He's got really, really, really high-end speed. He ran a 4.42 at the combine. The guy's just absolutely explosive when it comes to moving in and out of his breaks. It's insane, and I think the biggest thing with him is his quickness. He's really just quick, and when you add quick with fast, like, I think the best player comp is Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was fast and he was quick, and Zay Flowers measures out kind of like Elijah Moore and all of those things. And I think he might even have a little bit more upside than Elijah Moore when it comes to everything. Where can he get better at? Well, he's not the best route runner yet. He really needs to learn how to introduce his quickness and his explosiveness into his route running because he needs to do a better job of selling routes. At Boston, he was arguably the best player on the field for most of the snaps when he was on offense, so he didn't really have to sell moves and to do those things, and that's not going to fly at the next level. He definitely needs to do that. And then the other thing is he is kind of small when you look at all of the measurables and arm length and hand size, not hand size, but like in arm length and certain things like that. So his catch, like, he's not going to be able to like just extend his arms away from a defensive back. His catch radius is kind of small because he's small. So Zay Flowers, I would not be surprised if a team like Buffalo were to take a Zay Flowers if they don't trade up for a guy like Jackson Smith-Njigba. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs took a flyer on a guy like Zay Flowers at 31 to just kind of have the fifth-year option. But I think more often than not, or more securely than not, he's probably a second-round pick if the teams decide not to reach on a wide receiver. Moving on to wide receiver number 3, we go over to Texas, to TCU, to Quentin Johnston. I love me some Quentin Johnston. He has all of those things that you can't teach: size, speed, explosiveness, those uncoachable traits when it comes to all of those things. He's also like long, like just insanely long, 33.5-inch arms. You know, big hands, 9.5-inch hands, insanely explosive, 6'3", and it's not like a heavy 6'3", like 6'3", 220, 6'3", 200 pounds. The guy is lean, mean. He's just built to play wide receiver at the next level. Now, why is he wide receiver 3? Why does he have a second-round grade on him? Why am I not higher on him? Well, because of the things that he doesn't necessarily provide at a high level to the wide receiver room. One, same problem that I had with Zay Flowers. He does a really bad job of telegraphing his routes. You know what route he's running, but at TCU that didn't matter because he was arguably the best player on the field when he was playing. It's hard for college corners, especially if you're not facing elite college corners, to stick to a guy like that. It just doesn't happen. So he could just run past you, or he could just run and cut, and like he was quicker than you, so you weren't doing anything about it. You want to see more from his game and his skill set. The other problem is he has a bad tendency of catching balls with the body. He's a body catcher, and at the next level, that's not going to fly. You need to be able to put your hands out and catch with your hands, and that's really why he has a second round grade. If he had better, more secure hands, in the sense of his catching, I would love that, and I would definitely really throw him up boards. And then the last problem that I have with Quentin Johnston, and the reason why he's not in the first round, is he doesn't play with a killer instinct. And what I mean by that is, you know how there are certain wide receivers, your big wide receivers, who can create space but they play physical. They are in your face. They are throwing shoulders. They're going up, and they don't care about the physicality of the game. Well, Quentin Johnston doesn't do that at all. He doesn't play like he's 6'4", 205 pounds, he doesn't do that at all. He plays like he's 6 foot and 190 pounds. He plays smaller than his size. If he can add, let's say 5 or 10 pounds, and then without losing or sacrificing the speed, catch with his hands and add physicality, Quentin Johnston has a legitimate opportunity to be a serious threat on an NFL offense. I would love to see him matched up with a really, really, there's the thing, right? You can kind of match him up with whatever. If you want him to be your short yardage guy, he can do that. You want him to be your deep threat, he can do that. Again, going to the right scheme for him is going to matter so much. But I love this kid, and I love what he can bring. Going on to wide receiver 4 on my big board, we're going across the country to California. We're going to USC, and that's right. We're talking about Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison was arguably the number 1 wide receiver prospect going into this year when we're talking about before the season, and for good reason. His year that he had with Kenny Pickett at Pitt before transferring to USC was insane. It won him the Biletnikoff award in that year, and then he transferred to USC, arguably went to a much better quarterback in Caleb Williams at USC, and probably a better head coach as well, but he wasn't really able to step up his game. What does he provide to a team that's taking him? Elite route running. He arguably might be the best route runner in this draft, just being honest. And then you match that up with the fact that he's one of the faster wide receivers in this draft as well. I think that his combine time of a 4.49, I don't think that's actually what his running speed is. I'd be really interesting to see that. And then, like I said, when you have that, his yards after the catch ability is absolutely insane. So if you can get him the ball in space, he's going to do a lot of really, really good things. Where does he lose? Where can he get better at? Well, if you look at what happened, like I said, in that transition from Pitt to USC, at Pitt, they really highlighted him as a key part of the offense, and he was schemed open. And when he wasn't schemed open and he was just asked to win routes, he kind of suffered there. And that comes from a fact of he doesn't have physicality to his game at all. He doesn't have that ability to really do anything. At 6 foot, 175 pounds, he doesn't play very strong, at all. And so that's really where his issues are. It's hard to see Addison keeping the parts of his game that made him elite by adding weight without losing those things, right? And so as a second round pick, which is what I have him, a top of the second round, I think that you could legitimately see a run on wide receivers once the second round hits, once day 2 hits. He has the ability to be I guess the best way to think about it is like a high-end wide receiver 2 in a system. Remember Juju when he had Antonio Brown? Same concept. If you are a team that has a legit wide receiver 1 but doesn't have a wide receiver 2, Jordan Addison would be a great addition. Again, I think of teams like the Buffalo Bills. If you add Jordan Addison's playability there, where Stephon Diggs is still going to get a majority of the looks, Jordan Addison is going to be able to create space and to go out there and get the job done. Another team that could use something like that would be the Baltimore Ravens. By adding Odell Beckham Jr., you've now created a wide receiver 1 there. So the attention is still going to be on OBJ. When you add a guy like a Jordan Addison who you can get in the second round to that system, watch out, because the guy can play and he can fly. And I love me some Jordan Addison. Last but not least, we're going all the way to North Carolina, and we're talking about Josh Downs. Josh Downs is an interesting prospect. Very good when it comes to the idea of he's going to be a slot receiver at the next level. He's got the size and the speed and the athletic profile to be in the slot, 5'10", 175 pounds, makes a ton of sense. Again, a guy who I think runs faster than his 40 time. He clocked in at a 4.48 at the next level at the combine. But when we look at some of the things that we talked about with previous prospects, with his concerns, he has short arms for a guy who even is 5'10", so he doesn't have the biggest catch radius. He doesn't play with a ton of physicality because he doesn't have a ton of physicality to back up even if he wanted to play with physicality. And so when you're looking at a guy like Josh Downs, I really look and project him as a slot receiver exclusively there. He's going to provide you with a ton of athleticism in the slot, and again, he's great at the catch point. He's got great footwork to really sell routes. He had to do that at North Carolina, and he can really sell a route, and he's got really smooth and buttery footwork and all of that stuff. And again, some of the same traits that we saw with Jackson Smith-Njigba of just understanding where the gaps in defenses are, Josh Downs brings that kind of level of understanding as well to the defense. Now, I have more faith that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to translate to the NFL than Josh Downs is. But that being said, I would not be surprised if he was taken in the high part of the second round, and he did. And he worked out really, really well for a team looking there. Like, if you've got 2 wide receivers and you just need a third guy, you really need a guy to come into the slot and work exclusively in the slot and do things there. Josh Downs might be your guy. Think of a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. They seem like they want to play Smith outside, and obviously AJ is an outside wide receiver. If you add a guy like Josh Downs to that pairing, you've really got 3 really good wide receivers. You got 2 speed demons in AJ Brown and Smith, and then you've got a really, really good route runner. Again, the other 2 guys can do that well. You've got a really good route runner in the slot, and he can now become another safety blanket for Jalen Hurts, who got absolutely paid a couple of days ago. Let me know what you guys think of my wide receiver rankings in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.